This Saturday, August 24th at Knox United Church at 2 p.m., there will be a truly musical, magical event happening. Winnipeg's Summercore will be performing Mozart's awe-inspiring Requiem in D minor. Consisting of an 80-voice choir, full orchestra, and soloists, this is sure to be something very, very special and a great way to take in this masterpiece in the lush acoustic of Knox United Church at 400 Edmonton Street. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about Summercore's performance of the Mozart Requiem, I am joined by Nathan Poole, who is the artistic director and conductor of Summercore. Hi, Nathan. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before we talk about the Mozart, I am amazed by Summercore and the idea of it. I was at a performance a couple of years ago, and it just knocked my socks off. This was the brainchild of Neil Wiesenthal and his wife, Rachel Landrecht. It consists of nothing but volunteer performers, right? Can you talk about the group and its structure?
Yeah, so you got it right. Neil and his wife kind of spearheaded this campaign. They actually their group is called World Village Music, and they have World Village Gospel Choir as part of that. Summercore was a way to bring together volunteers from that choir and from the community to come sing a major choral work in the summertime. So there was, we shut down at summertime as musicians. We just stop. We take a break, 2 months of rest before the season picks up again. And so Neil saw a need, and he filled it. And it's a really, really great organization because it does bring together a huge part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. You were one-time president of the Manitoba Choral Association. Is the community interest in Summercore a testament to the choral culture here in Manitoba?
For sure. Yeah, when I made the announcement that we were going to do Summercore this year, we had an instant sign up. It was incredible. It was an instant response. And within about 3 weeks, we had 80 singers sign up. So that's a testament to the Mozart, obviously, but also to the community. There's a need for it and a want for that community event to happen in the summer. So it's a good outlet for the community for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The group puts on a full tilt professional quality performance of whatever Summercore chooses to do. I know that there are professional musicians in the choir, but one of the things I find so impressive is the orchestra is made up of quite a few pros as well. I'm a clarinet player, and the last performance I saw, a number of my friends were actually in the orchestra. How is the orchestra put together?
It's my friends. We have a group of people that we call upon to come in and play for us, but you're right. They are stellar. They are really, really good. You're going to know a lot of the people in the orchestra because they are community members, but also semi-professionals and professionals here in the city. I knew you were a clarinetist, and I'm so sorry. This is we have clarinet showcasing on Saturday. We don't have any basset horns, unfortunately, but no, we have a stellar group of musicians, and I'm so fortunate that I consider a lot of them close friends. It's amazing.
Yeah, and so it ends up being a great orchestra. Can you talk about the vocal soloists this year? Who are they? The Requiem requires 4 soloists, right?
You got it. So we've got Sandra Bender, soprano, Kathleen Murphy, mezzo-soprano, Aaron Hutton as tenor, and Matt Pauls as bass. And I've worked with 3 of them before. So Sandra Bender and I go back 20 years or more, working together on various projects. Most recently, we did Messiah Queered together. It was a queered production of Handel's Messiah, where we gender bended kind of all the solos, and it was really remarkable. She sang The Trumpet Shall Sound. Kathleen Murphy is a fantastic mezzo. I got to work with them also on Messiah Queered. They had a fantastic performance of Why Do the Nations So Furiously Rage? And it was so exciting to get to work with them on that, with a mezzo-soprano voice on Why Do the Nations with a full orchestra. It was very powerful and kind of unique. Aaron Hutton, I got to work with on another production of Messiah in the before times, kind of before the pandemic happened in 2019, for 2 performances of Messiah. Fantastic voice. And, his voice on Every Valley and Thou Shalt Break Them was a lot of fun. And so for the Mozart, it's quite stunning. Matt Pauls, this is my first chance to get to work with him, and that's truly exciting too, because everybody knows Matthew Pauls. from his all his work throughout the city and in all his years here. His rendition of Tuba Miram is sonorous and resonant, and it's going to fill that space really, really well.
Absolutely. This year is very special for you because you're taking on the mantle of artistic director for Summercore. Neil Lesenthal asked you to lead this year's performance. How has it been for you running rehearsals? What's that been like?
It's been a lot of fun. It's stressful because it's, when I've worked with other organizations in the past, there's a board and there's a committee to do all this volunteer stuff and get things done. And I just get to wave my arms and look fancy. So I've taken on all the administrative work and all that good stuff. It's been a lot of work, but super rewarding. From our first rehearsal in June with the choir, it's been nonstop work, but also a lot of fun. I think the choir can tell you that I'm not just all about work and getting things done and making sure every note is in the right place, but I'm also about having a good time and making sure that the community aspect is there. Yeah. So it's been a blast.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the rehearsal schedule? What's that look like? Has it been the same for the orchestra and the choir, or how does that work?
So the choir has met every Tuesday since June 11th. From 7 to 9 at Knox United, right in the sanctuary. So we get to use that instrument of the sanctuary every single time. And then just last week, we added the orchestra. I started rehearsing the orchestra alone last week. And then last Tuesday, just 2 days ago, we rehearsed 3 days ago, we rehearsed the choir and the orchestra together for the first time, and the soloists. And that was a blast. We had a lot of fun. The sounds I was getting was quite surprising in a really good way.
So on Saturday, Summercore is doing Mozart's Requiem. It was written in the final days of his life. He, in fact, didn't complete it. Are you using the Süssmayr version of the completion? And can you talk about that process and the history behind how it was completed?
Well, how much time do we have, Chris? That's
it's a dissertation topic right there.
Yeah, we could go for like the next 4 hours, right? We are using the Süssmayr. I've always wanted to try a different completion. The Robert Levin is my kind of number one I want to do sometime, because his completion of there's an Amen fragment at the end of the Lacrimosa is fantastic. It's really brilliant, and his kind of extended work on the fugue subjects of the Sanctus and the Benedictus are really great. But we're doing the Süssmayr because it's the most recognizable as the Mozart Requiem. A lot of folks that aren't in the business don't know that Mozart never finished it. They just know there's kind of this mystique surrounding it and kind of an intriguing story. But the Süssmayr is the standard, and that's the one we're doing. I'm using a score that was prepared in just very recently from Edition Peters that attempts to recreate the delivery score of what Constanza would have given to Count Franz von Walsegg in 1792 to complete the commission. So it's kind of a return to what was first handed over. So it's a very pure rendition of that first score. It's very, very neat.
And for our listeners, Mozart essentially didn't write the Sanctus, the Benedictus, and the Agnus Dei. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Süssmayr. So Mozart only actually fully completed the introit, the very first movement, and he did most of the work on the Kyrie, the next section, and then the sequence portion. So everything after that, up until the Sanctus, was just kind of bare bones. It had all the choral stuff there, all the quartet stuff, and the figured bass, but just little dabbles of string and wind parts and brass parts, very skeletal.
Yeah.
So we only have a hint of what Mozart wanted. Süssmayr actually wasn't the first composer to touch the Requiem after Mozart died. Joseph Eibler had his hand at completing some of the instrumental parts, but probably gave up because it's Mozart, right? Like how can you complete Mozart?
The story I heard was he just didn't feel like he was up to it. He just said to Constanza,
it's too much, right? So, and then it was handed off to Süssmayr, and we don't really know how much Süssmayr depended on Mozart's fragments or notes, because it's said that Constanza did everything she could to kind of hide the fact that Mozart hadn't completed the Requiem. It's a testament to her that we have this mystique surrounding it and what was actually Mozart and what was actually Süssmayr. We have a pretty good idea that Mozart did not have a hand in the Sanctus, the Benedictus, and the Agnus Dei, because there's some problematic writing and atypical things that happen within those movements.
When I was prepping for the interview, I was reading about Süssmayr and him trying to complete it. Apparently, the story I heard was that he was like literally reading off scraps of paper that Mozart had written things on.
It's very possible. Our performance actually includes a fragment of an Amen fugue that was supposedly written by Mozart. On this fragment also includes another movement, a sketch of another movement of the Requiem called the Rex Tremendae. And there's a bit of an overture from the Magic Flute on it too. So it's supposedly from that same era, could have been written for the Requiem. The theme is an inversion of the first theme that we hear in the Requiem. So it's quite likely. So we're incorporating that into the performance. It's going to be kind of neat when you hear it. It's a kind of a throwback to, oh yeah, this is not a complete Mozart work. And it's startling the way we do it. It's really neat.
But for our listeners, the Süssmayr completion it's phenomenal and totally worth hearing. Absolutely. One of the things I always think about with this piece is it's in the key of D minor, and it was written right at the end of his life. Does that add a bit of gravitas and drama to
for sure,
to the Requiem?
Well, yeah. The tragedy, of course, is that he died so young, right? It's in D minor, a very mournful key for Mozart. It is mournful from the very beginning. The very first eighth notes that you hear is just mournful. But Mozart was actually on the cusp of a new career in Vienna. And this is the real tragedy, is that we didn't actually hear what Mozart had to give. If he had just lived another 35 years, he could have almost outlived Beethoven.
Yeah.
Almost outlived Beethoven.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine what that would have done to Western classical music?
Yeah.
So that's the tragedy to me. Yeah, it's super tragic. It's very sad. But the fact that we didn't get to see what comes next is the saddest. Obviously, he ended, the last thing he wrote was the eighth bar of the Lacrimosa, the most mournful section of the Requiem. It's very sad. On that day of tears and mourning, on that text, that's what he ended on, or we think he ended on. That's, of course, a good story and very tragic, but what could have been, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly difficult for the choir. Can you talk about some of the challenges that the choral writing creates? And for you as a conductor, what kinds of things are you doing to help out the choristers?
Yeah, it's a sing.
Yeah.
There's no movement that's easy. The Süssmayr editions are complex in their own right because it's not Mozart. The voice leading is awkward and kind of strange, and the stuff that Mozart wrote is very, very difficult. The Kyrie, the first fugue that we hear, the double fugue that we hear, is notoriously difficult. It's coloratura, so fast, rapid 16th notes. Hard for professionals to sing, and I'm asking a community choir to do it. It's sounding really great. I gotta say, it's kind of really, really awesome. So it was a lot of rehearsing, a lot of asking them to do work on their own. I supplied choral tracks that they could listen to and work with at home, but it's a lot of work at rehearsal of detail work, understanding where the subject goes, when the subject is no longer there and you have to kind of back off, that kind of thing, right? The other really tricky movement is the Domine Jesu, my favorite movement, because it has this great fugue in the middle of it, the Ne absorbeat eas Tartarus fugue, which just, the tenors start off really strong, and then the altos come in, and then the sopranos come in. I don't want to say screeching, but they're screeching as they come in on this high A, and it's just a wonderfully torturous fugue subject that is torturous to learn too. It's great. And the orchestra writing too, Süssmayr completed that as well, and it's just a bunch of 16th notes for the orchestra to just chew away on, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. Those are the two hardest movements, and I would say we spent the most time on those. And it's just a lot of rehearsing and being patient and getting ensemble first, and then understanding kind of where those musical lines end up.
Yeah, and one of the things I think about with a large choir, like an 80-voice choir, is just keeping them moving, keeping them staying on top of the on top of the time, right?
Yeah, and we've had some moments in rehearsal where we haven't train wrecked yet, which is great. We've come close. We came close on Tuesday when I told the choir, "This is perfect. you guys, this is awesome. I'm so glad you're doing it now because it means it's less likely to happen closer to the performance. It's not going to happen on the performance because they're really fantastic. It's a lot of watching too. I tell them to watch a lot because don't rely on what you're hearing from that other section over there because they're far away, especially in the acoustic of Knox where there's a lot of reverb and that kind of thing. So it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Now that you've conducted the Requiem, has your perspective on it changed? Like, can you appreciate it on other levels now? And one of the other things I'm wondering is, what do you hope audiences will take away from Saturday's performance?
So this is my second time. I've gotten to conduct it once before at Westminster United when I was the choir director there. And actually, I've sung and performed it several times since I was a kid. First time I got to perform it was in the early 90s with my church choir back in St. Paul, Minnesota. My church choir director, J. Michael Compton, he's still there working. I actually did it twice with him. I sang alto probably the first time in the 90s, and then as a bass when I was 17 or 18. And then I came to Winnipeg to study music, and I got to sing it with Dr. Elroy Friesen. I got to play it with Dr. Elroy Friesen when we took it on tour. And then the first time Summercore ever met was 2017, and it was the Mozart Requiem, and I got to play the violin there. Every single time I approach that piece, it's like I've forgotten everything, and I have to relearn it from scratch. Even the more known movements like the Lacrimosa looks completely different to me on a whole different level. You know, I conducted it in 2014. Conducting it now, I look back on my old score, and it's what are these tempos? Like why did I do this? And what's going on? And I didn't save any notes. I just had pencil markings in, you know, like. So it's personal growth, right, and cultural growth and all that good stuff. So that's how I approach it now. It's kind of a neat experience to look back on it. I hope that our audience comes away with a sense of awe and wonder with the Requiem, because that's what it truly does to you. There are some truly powerful moments all the way through. I mean, the whole thing is powerful, but when you get to the ending of the Kyrie on that stunning open fifth chord, and then pound into the Dies Irae, the Day of Wrath. When you move from the Confutatis, you know, those dark flames that you hear in the Confutatis to the mournful Lacrimosa, it's amazing. It's just drama after drama after drama. So I hope that the audience comes away super moved and more intrigued by the genesis and the whole composition of the Requiem in the end. And I should say, there is a surprise for the audience on Saturday. The performance of the Requiem is about 55 minutes long. You're going to get out in an hour, but we still have one extra surprise for the audience to lead them with. And those that are in the business are probably going to know what that surprise is. But for those of you that don't, it's going to be a real pleasant experience.
Amazing. It's been great. I'm going to wrap up the conversation by asking, how much are tickets and where can people go to buy them for Saturday's performance?
So if you pick up your tickets early online, they are $12.50, and you can go to mozartrequiemlive.com. I can't believe that website existed for me to take. mozartrequiemlive.com, and you're going to see a link to buy tickets. And if you want to wait to come at the door, you can totally do that too. Tickets are $15 at the door, though, so I encourage you to get them early. $12.50, that's all it is. $15 at the door, and doors open at 1:30.
Yeah, still reasonable. Nathan, this has been really great. Mozart's Requiem is a true masterpiece, and the opportunity to see it performed live on Saturday at Knox United Church at 2 p.m. is a real treat for Winnipeggers. All the best. I'm sure it's going to be a spectacular performance. Thanks for taking the time to stop by our Classic 107 studio and talk to me today.
Thank you so much, Chris, for the invitation.
For our Classic 107 listeners, if you want to find out more details about Summercore's performance of the Mozart Requiem tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Knox United Church at 400 Edmonton Street, go to our website, classic107.com. I've embedded a direct link where you can find out more info in the article that is up on our website. Nathan, thanks again.
Thank you.